John Kasich and State House Republicans are still in charge of the Ohio state government, and they have been going hammer and tongs to make it harder to vote in Ohio ever since they lost that big one in 2012. First, they voted to reduce the number of voting machines that counties have at their voting sites. Then, if you get forced to cast a provisional ballot, they made it harder for your provisional ballot to get counted. Then, John Kasich signed a Republican bill cutting a total of 6 days out of the early voting period. He also cut what they call the Golden Week in Ohio, which is a week during early voting when you can register to vote and vote on the same day. Then, the Republican Secretary of State announced that there would be no early voting anymore on the Sunday before Election Day, or indeed on any Sundays before Election Day. So much for the fight that the Obama campaign had won back in 2012. The Republican Secretary of State also announced that there would no longer be any early voting in Ohio on weeknights, so no early voting after work hours. Then they passed another new law that bans Ohio counties from sending out absentee ballots. The new law says only the Secretary of State, only Republican John Husted, can send out absentee ballots around the state, and he only has to do that if he wants to do it and if the legislature appropriates specific money for him to do it. Counties have always done that in the past, but the new law bans the counties from doing that anymore. And apparently, that was the last straw for old Ed Fitzgerald. He is the Democrat who has almost no statewide name recognition in Ohio, even though he's trying to run against John Kasich. He is also, though, the county executive for the most populous county in Ohio, for Cuyahoga County. And Ed Fitzgerald first announced that he was going to sue the state over all these cutbacks that the Republicans have instituted against voting rights in the state over the last year and a half. And then, beyond that, he went the civil disobedience route, sort of. He had the county council in his county, in Cuyahoga County, vote for a local measure that he wrote, which said the county wouldn't comply with this new law banning them from sending out absentee ballots. The county voted on this measure that he wrote that said, regardless of this new law that John Kasich signed, Cuyahoga County was going to keep sending out those absentee ballot applications just like they always had. And that's where it got really interesting, because the Republicans in the Ohio legislature decided to retaliate against him. They introduced legislation a few days ago that would punish any county in Ohio that sent out absentee ballot applications. It would withhold 10% of all state money from that county as punishment if any county did what Ed Fitzgerald said he was going to do in Cuyahoga County, was sending out those ballots just like they always had. In response, Ed Fitzgerald said, "Oh yeah?" Called a press conference saying that Cuyahoga would not back down, would not change its plan, would not be intimidated. Then he wrote to the U.S. Attorney in Ohio and to the Attorney General of the United States saying, please investigate the attacks on voting rights here in Ohio by the Republicans in state government. This is unconscionable what they're doing and what they are now threatening us with. And you know what? The Republicans in Ohio blinked. They backed down. They pulled their bill that would have punished the counties by taking that money away. And Governor John Kasich and the Republican Secretary of State both said, yeah, okay, Republicans in the legislature probably shouldn't do that. We won't go ahead with this bill. And so, Cuyahoga County, your county executive apparently just saved one part of your voting rights by fighting really hard for it. And if you're just learning this about him because of this fight that he picked and he won with Republicans in the state capitol, and if you like that he picked that fight and that he won it for you, then he would probably also like you to remember now and at least for the rest of this year that his name is Ed Fitzgerald, and he is a Democrat, and he is running for governor against John Kasich. And that is the story of name recognition the earned way.